All right, guys, welcome to Saw Talk. I'm going to be your host, Sodaris DeHady, and today we're going to actually have a pretty good show. I've got it kind of loaded. I want to get this out too before joint practices tomorrow. So, first off, we're going to talk about Miami Dolphins depth chart. Some of my surprises, some of the starters they have. I'm going to go through the starters quick because for the most part, everybody knows who the starters are. And I'm not really going to go through the cuts, but more of like the bubble players who I think may get cut, who might be a little bit of a surprise to you. And where these players might go. I'm gonna show you this as well, so I always talk about it. Give you those visual aids. You know, we have a lot of visual learners, right? And not just audio. If you guys are listening to me while you're driving or anything like that, when you get a chance, come back and take a look at it. And you probably might be able to understand it just by listening to me talk. I'll try to be as clear as possible. Also, we're going to talk about the preview of the Chicago Bears and some of the changes in where they are considered ranked by PFF standards. Obviously, I'm not a huge fan of PFF and some of the things. I don't know what they see on film or the grading should be the question there. However, it is a data point that we can use and somewhere to kind of give a launch of idea, general idea, a little bit higher, a little bit lower. It kind of gives you an idea of where they're viewed at. And they don't have the Miami Dolphins one out just yet. However, what I will use is the Warren Sharp football book that he created. I'm not gonna give you everything because that's something that you have to pay for. And so if it's something I had to pay for, I'm not gonna give you everything. I'm gonna just give you a snippet of it. Hopefully, it whets your palate and makes you decide you want to go ahead and buy Mr. Sharp's book. It's $1 currently. If you go to Reason, he has a video with Sharp. Make sure you go ahead and watch that video, get the code, buy it for $1. That's how I got it. You can also, I think he also has a podcast either with Kyle Krabs or Dudley Durong. I think he was on there. Both of those was really good. Whatever one he was on, I can't tell you because I watched so much of it. It was $1 as well. Use that code. He's basically trying to promote his book, and it's well worth it. Buy it for $1. Like go out there, sell a bottle of water for $1, especially if you live in Miami. It's so hot. Somebody buy it for $1 and use that dollar to go ahead and get this book. It's super detailed. There's no way I can even go over all of it, but I am going to go over some of the things, mainly the offensive line, and maybe the front seven. Check out my last video. It's only 6 minutes long. Made it short. Talking about how I believe this front seven has the ability to carry the secondary to be in a top 10 defense. I don't think it's a pipe dream. Miami Dolphins was a top 10 defense last year, and they didn't even have the pressure. Yeah, it was middle of the pack with pressure rate, obviously because they're missing different individuals, and they weren't that great in the secondary because if you didn't know, Fuller was hurt most of the year, so you had an undrafted free agent rookie and Kader Kohu mainly manning down the other side of the ball. Kader Kohu had a bounce back year. Ramsey had a regression. He wasn't the elite player he was, but he was still very good. Now, the question is can we do this without either of our starters except for Storm Duck, who was the weak link last year, and we're hoping that he's probably the best guy in the secondary. But the front seven is going to be the thing, I'm telling you, is going to be the thing that carries that team to be in the top 10 finish on the defensive side of the ball. Points allowed. If they can actually stay healthy. No, big if. Big if. All right. So let's go ahead and get this started. So first thing first, I'm pulling up the depth chart now. You guys should be able to see it now. And our starters, Tyreek Hill, Patrick Paul, left tackle, Jonas Savaiinaia, and Brewer, Daniels, Jackson, Waller, Ingo at fullback, Achan, Tua Tagovailoa, Jalen Waddle, Chop Robinson, he's a starter this year. Sealer, Benito Jones, starter. Dotson, Brooks, Jalen Phillips, Storm Duck, Sheffield. Whew, okay. Mika Fitzpatrick, Davis, who is currently hurt right now, and Mike Hilton. And then obviously special teams, we have Sanders, and we have Bailey Stormhouse for holder and punter. Long snapper, Cardona. I don't know that guy because remember we brought him in like mid through the last year, mid of the season last year, and you only get to see him on long snaps. I'm sorry. Malik Washington at kick returner, and then Malik Washington again at punt returner. All right, so let's talk about some of the surprises. First off, I have no surprises at the receivers, right? But my number one surprise is Darren Waller still tight end number one. He hasn't even touched the field yet. I mean, they brought him in to compete. and they already have him as number one. He hasn't even touched the field yet. We don't know who he is. This guy was just in retirement, but this kind of tells you how highly they view Darren Waller. Julian Hill is the backup, and then you have Brown as their next backup. From what I'm hearing in camp, man, Brown looked like a dude, man. Like in 11 personnel, you asking him for run blocking outside zone. Like, he is out there mowing people down, and I love it. Holding his own against Chop, holding his own against Jalen, and holding his own against Chubb. All three are great players, two of which, Chubb and Phillips, who are probably not the plus run stoppers, but they are capable of doing it if you just go watch the film, Omar. They are capable and have done it. Just turn on the Patriots film from last year, and Chop Robinson was a problem, boxing everything back to the linebackers. But I regress. Let me not pull that up. But however, Chubb is a plus run blocker and very capable. And we're hearing that I haven't been able to get there, unfortunately. But he is. I'm hearing that he's doing a great job of holding the point of attack, not getting pushed back, holding the ground. Those things are necessary because those auxiliary blockers last year couldn't do it, especially when Ingle went down, which was coinciding with Austin Jackson giving you a preview of why our run game like plummeted, and I'll give you those stats between those two injuries of how the run game changed based off just two guys getting hurt. All right. So my first surprise is Darren Waller. Yeah, I think Julian Hill, if he does not regress but does not improve from what he did last year, he will be quickly overtaken by Brown by how we're hearing he's doing in OTAs and training camp. Well, training camp mainly. That's what I'm hearing. All right, next surprise. If we move down the list, right? It's not even up. Is up here. They got Benito Jones as a starter over Grant, and how I'm hearing Grant has come alive once the pads came on. But it's the first depth chart. No preseason games have played. One's a veteran, one's a rookie. I get it, but if Grant is not like overtaking if Grant is not overtaking Benito Jones by like the quarter mark of the season, like week 4, like at least Jones could be the starter, but Grant should be getting more like snaps. Kind of like how Chop wasn't really the starter, but then he started to get more snaps because there was no one really there, especially when Jalen Phillips got hurt. Like that needs to be the progression for that particular player. He was first round draft pick, has all the physical ability in the world, hits like a truck if you ever seen him play, and super nimble. Hot take, I think this kid can be a Vita Vea player. Nandi, what's his name? The nose tackle for the Ravens back in the day. Like that type of player who can actually move and get pressure on the quarterback, like a 5-sack guy, and just be a stalwart in the run game. Vita Vea is one of the first things that comes to my mind. Like I see that type of potential. All pro level, first team, second team, all pro level player. Obviously not in a rookie year and maybe not in second year, but I see him developing to something quite like that. Basically a bigger, stronger Randy Starks, if you remember that, being able to excel against the run. All right, let me turn this phone off. We don't want to have any more of those issues. Not try to mess that up. I know my wife is going to probably call me in a little bit, so I will respond to that when that happens. So, next one, Benito Jones being over Grant. That can't stay that way. It just can't stay that way. Yeah, moving on down. Sheffield being a starting corner. Jack Jones, he did just get here. I get it. I put a video out. Look at that one as well. For Jack Jones, I think his physical ability is beyond anybody else's on this team. Maybe Cam Smith might be as physically athletic as him as well. But other than that, Jack Jones should be a starter But when we're done with these preseason games, Jack Jones should be a starter. Please don't nobody else get hurt in the secondary. Like, please. I know I said front seven is going to be what carries us, but we need somebody. Like, we got people out here asking for Xavier and Howard to come out of like retirement. Shoot, sign me up. I'll come out there, play some snaps. Give me some money. I'll do it. Probably can't do it for more than a quarter or a drive, but I'll do it. Okay, me. That front seven is going to make a lot of people look good, but we got to have somebody back there. All right. So Jack Jones definitely should be a starter. Ethan Bonner is still over Cam Smith. I know it's not really a surprise because he's been falling down like depth charts, but bro, it's a disappointment to hear that this guy's not doing or being where he needs to go. I know he's getting injured sometimes, but that's telling me when he is up there, he's not showing anything either. Like there's only one player in the secondary that's behind Cam Smith right now, and that's Adams. All right. Patrick McMorris, right? So we got to see more. I need to get to a point where I feel like Patrick McMorris is overcoming Elijah Campbell. So Elijah Campbell is technically over him on the depth chart right now. So it needs to get to a point where he can outcompete him on the depth chart from a safety position, but not just that, but also from a special team standpoint to actually be able to take those snaps for him. Elijah Campbell is now a veteran. He's not a young player who we see is ascending. Patrick Morris, what he showed us from before, showed he could be an ascending player and was a plus run defender. Like from what I saw from his college film, he was a player that was instinctual, not the fastest or more athletic player, but it was a guy who was instinctual, kind of played a more physical version of how I believe I played very instinctually, and being in places that you probably would have not got there just from physical ability, but by watching film and knowing where you need to be at and seeing how a defense is coming against you and seeing those tendencies of, oh, he's coming off the ball a little slow, is what's coming up behind him, those type of things. And that's huge in football. A lot of people who've never played don't know that. Like you don't get that in a video game. You got to play. So let's get to some of the position battles. Like I already said, kind of gave you guys a little bit on Elijah Campbell and Patrick McMorris. Let's start back up at the top of the roster from the offensive side of the ball. And I'm first going to start off with the wide receiver. I think they're going to carry 6 to 7 receivers. So that tells me right when we get to the point of D. Estrick and Easy E, it starts to become a situation because those are the 6 guys. And I like Taj Washington. And that tells me there's 3 guys for 1 or 2 spots. Because I don't, and Theo Weiss I think is going to get cut, but they're going to try to bring him back for the practice squad because of what we're hearing. But Black, Armstrong, Baldwin, Henning, we haven't heard anything from these guys. I don't know if that's enough to make this roster with the depth that they have in the receiver room. Easy E has been a disappointment, but those have to do with a lot of injuries. And I mean, taking care of your body as well. Rehab is super big, like massively important. So those things need to be taken care of. So who do you think out of the 3, Easy E, Todd Washington, and D. Estrick, would you take? And before you make your decision, D. Estrick was a 2nd-round draft pick in 2021. Now, so that tells me he's a little bit older than Easy E and Taj Washington, but he has a pedigree of being a 2nd-round draft pick. And in that draft, if you remember, that was when we drafted Holland. So to give you an idea of how old he is, he's not really an old player. Like he's in the prime, physical prime from age standpoint of his career, and experience, like about 4 years, 4 or 5 years. But this should be his 5th season. So I personally, and from what I'm hearing, D. Estrick might make this roster. I like D. Estrick. I like Easy E, but I really like Washington too. Do we keep 7 receivers, or do we cut 1, Washington or Easy E, and hope we can get them on the practice squad? It depends on the other positions of what we're going to do. I think we're going to keep 10 linemen, at least 10 to 11 offensive linemen. We need to back up at every position. So that tells me Borum, Liam Eichenberg, Brewer, Brunskill, and Keon Smith are all making this roster behind our starters. And I actually like the depth behind the offensive line. I know a lot of people hate Liam Eichenberg, but Liam Eichenberg as a backup isn't horrible, and I think he's a better backup center than a guard. But you can survive if he's your one lineman that's not good. Last year we had 3 offensive linemen when Jackson went down that were not starter or even sufficient backup level players. Liam, Jones, and then obviously that carousel of right tackles. And I hate to say it, I like Lamb, but Lamb was a plus pass blocker. When you can't run the ball, and he was not good at run blocking, what are you going to do? You only got 2 offensive linemen that can actually block, and one of them had a degenerative knee and Armstead. Thank you for playing and fighting through it, my brother. And so what do you expect is going to happen when you have those type of issues on the offensive line? You're not going to be able to do anything. And so you have to have players on the offensive line. They are the engine for your car. I don't care how good the tires are or the windows or the lights or your suspension. If the engine's not working, that car's not moving. And the offensive line is the engine. All right? So moving on. Mo Camaro. It's not even a position battle. I just want to see him get on the field more. He's behind Chop Robertson, but this is a kid I feel like did do some things in the pass rushing game and can be capable. I don't know how good he's going to be against the run. I think he's small, short arms. He can get overwhelmed. So we need to see this particular player in passing situations and give him opportunities to get after the quarterback, because I think he has enough to be that type of player. I need to see Kenneth Grant to get over Benito Jones. By mid-season, this needs to be a Chop Robertson type of ascension where you wasn't a starter, but now he's getting the type of snaps where he's basically the starter. That Kenneth Grant has to be that. You can't miss on first-round draft picks. And the physical ability from this kid, big, strong, quick, got nimble feet. I made the bold prediction during draft night that he, like Reason said, he's Vita Vea with a little bit more like pep to his step. He is better than Christian Wilkins. Put it on there. I think he would be better than Christian Wilkins. Now, not as a rookie, that obviously, but give him 3 years. Give him halfway through his rookie contract. I think that's a particular player where we're going to be like, how are we going to pay this kid? All right. And part of the reason why they decided to lock up Sealer now, and then 2-3 years down the road, where now you might be able to get out of that contract with Sealer, who's advanced age. Hopefully he doesn't decrease in his production. Grant can take over and we'll be okay. That's the type of stuff you need to see from your GM coming up with those contingency plans. Just like how Cam Smith was supposed to be a contingency plan, but because it was a bad pick, it kind of throws everything. That's why our secondary and DB room looks so bad now. All right, because the contingency plan did not work. That takes us into our linebackers. Taj Dawson. I think we're gonna bring five linebackers. If we don't bring 5, then it's Tyndall. I want Tyndall to actually make this roster. I like Tyndall. I think he's a great special teams guy, and I think he could play. Like, I just don't think he gets the opportunity. I don't think he could do anything in the pass game, honestly. He's a little too stiff. He doesn't move well. But as run guy and diagnosing is getting downfield, Tyndall can play. Now, how consistent is that? How much have I seen? Is limited, and so I don't know how well he can do this for an entire game. But I like Tyndall's physical ability, and I understand why he was drafted. He was one of the guys from Georgia that I really liked, because that team, I pay very close attention because one of my students actually played for him, and James Cook paid that man, which I think he just got his contract. All right, moving on. Storm Duck, you went from DB4 to DB1, so please step up. Ethan Bonner is over Cam Smith. I don't think that's even a position battle anymore. I just think Cam Smith, they punted. That Omar said it. They punted on that pick, and I'm about ready to give up on it too. I was never a huge fan of the pick either. I thought he needed to do more things to be an NFL player. Look too small, didn't look strong enough. Can react, look quick, but like you gotta have a lot at an NFL corner. He's looked like a really good college corner. Something I was. I don't think I was an NFL player, and obviously I didn't make it there. So it might be over for him. And I'm thinking he might make the 53-man roster just because of numbers and all the injuries. But he's a special teams player at this point, if he makes the team. Moving down, Sheffield over Jack Jones. I am 100% believe Jack Jones is going to take that spot. Jack Jones is more physically capable from what I've seen. I love the stuff that he put on his film. He just got to be more consistent. Learn defense because you just got here like a week ago. So Jack Jones will be my starter. Sheffield, I love that you get an opportunity. I've heard that you're fighting, competing. It didn't sound good the last practice that I heard. Keep fighting because, man, I'm telling you right now, I think Jack Jones is coming for you. And if it's me, I'm putting my money on Jack Jones. So good luck, my brother. And great job even having yourself as the number 2 corner on the roster. Now, these are opportunities that these DBs got to take advantage of because next year they drafting DBs and put some good tape on. So hopefully you can become a starter next year, or you can go somewhere else and get a chance to compete. All right. Mika Fitzpatrick, starter, obviously. Davis, he actually showed a little bit because my follow has been hurt basically all of training camp. And then I think we already talked about Elijah Campbell being over Patrick Morris. Well, I feel like Patrick Morris needs to show me something. Special teams, I'm gonna put my money on Stonehouse. Bailey has had too many shank punts in critical situations. I'm a big special teams guy because that's how I got my start as a football player, as a gunner. And I'll be honest with you, I played with a better college punter than what Bailey has been doing. Like, he's too inconsistent. Stonehouse needs to be the starter. I'm done with Bailey. Save us about $1 million, cut the guy. I hate to do it, or give him an opportunity somewhere else. Preseason is going to be an opportunity for both of them to prove me wrong will prove me right. So we'll see. My money's on Stonehouse. So moving on, we're gonna go ahead and move off from the depth chart and do our preview of the Chicago Bears. All right, so let's go ahead and pull up this information on the Chicago Bears. And there it is. So let's see what PFF, based off, please support the official release. So their offensive grade from 2024 was 27th. Not great. EPA per play was 27th. Not great at a 0 point negative 1.7. Defensive grade was actually pretty good. They was borderline top 10. They was an 11th ranked defense. And the EPA also was borderline top 10, which is at 11th. So, and I'm expecting them to probably improve on everything from last year. And they weren't bad last year. If you watch some of the games, they were competitive in a lot of those games. It was just like simple mistakes where they couldn't make a play when they needed to make a play. Defense was pretty good, gave them opportunities to win. They lost to the Commanders, but they should have won that game. And this is part of the reason why I don't think the Commanders are really that good. It's just because if you win a game in the playoffs against a team that they have high expectations for, automatically, oh my God, you're really good. And instead of taking the holistic approach of looking at everything of how somebody does something, because you are what you put on film. And just because you put it on film at the end of the game in critical situations, that don't mean nothing. That means something, but it don't mean everything. It's not the be all, say all, because you beat a good opponent. I played against the Alabama Roll Tide back in 2009. Had a bunch of superstars, and we took the lead against them, 14 to 13. And then going into halftime, they scored quickly, and it was only down 14 to 20 by 6 points going to half. You think like that, when we compete against that number one team in the country, we'll be able to compete against everybody. We won 3 games that year. We had a lot of injuries and we had issues, but that does not tell the whole story. We need to see everything, okay? And I don't think that the Washington Redskins are going to fall back to bad, but winning the division, they're a borderline playoff team. They're the same level as the Miami Dolphins. It's just the look of it, right? So let's move on. I'm going to focus mainly on kind of their some of their players, like their offensive line, because their offensive line has been improved, and I really want to see how we do against their offensive line. So let's look at it. Consider PFF says their biggest strength is the Chicago Bears had a solid tackle duo in Darrell Wright and Braxton Jones, who ranked 16th and 22nd, respectively, among qualifying tackles in PFF grades last season. The team overhauled this interior offensive line this offseason by acquiring Joe Thuney, who I think is a great player, Drew Dahlman, and Jonah Jackson. Thuney is the highest graded pass blocker at the position since 2021. Dahlman is an excellent zone blocker who fits seamlessly into Ben Johnson's scheme. Jackson also has experience with Johnson, so familiarity won't be an issue. This unit could be one of the NFL's elite offensive lines in 2025. I think that's high praise. I do think they will be much better. But an offensive line is not just the talent, it's also the quarterback and the play caller. And I think because Ben Johnson's there, I'm not even worried about that. I think he's one of the elite play callers, offensive minds in football. Now, the quarterback is somebody who holds onto the ball a lot. It's kind of the issue that you get in Cincinnati, where Joe Burrow holds the ball and takes sacks. And it's not just because his offensive line is not great, which is part of the issue, but it's really the quarterback who holds the ball too long, comes off a read too late, decides that I'm going to try to make a play, when in the NFL, these guys are super athletic. It's only 1 or 2 quarterbacks who are athletic enough to do the things that a college quarterback would do behind that line and make the defense look silly, and that's Lamar Jackson, and I would even go with Josh Allen. And Josh Allen is he get hit and just have people on his back and throwing the ball like crazy stuff, like he playing with toddlers and stuff. Yeah, say it's the strongest thing. That's going to be something that I really look at in the preseason game and during joint practices. How do Chubb, how does Jalen Phillips, how does Chop, how does Sealer, how does Grant, how do they deal with this elite offensive line, which I think they can be very good, but elite, that's a lot high praise. But if they're an elite offensive line, can our elite pass rush give them problems? And I want to see if that happens, because I remember my prediction is that this front 7, especially these pass rushers, can be top 5, top 10. I really think they got to be top 5 though to help the secondary. Really get after people. The defense would be top 10, but they got to be able to beat a good offensive line, because I don't think they're elite. I just think they're good. So they got to be able to not only beat them, but probably dominate them to a point where it's like, oh man, the Dolphins are real. And that's what I need to see when I see this preseason game. So can we be good enough from the tackles? Because we know those two tackles are pretty good, right? 16th to 22nd. Well, I'm over here saying my edge rushers are elite guys. Can they be that? Can they beat these guys consistently? And their interior offensive line is going to be a problem. But we know Sealer's an underrated, borderline top 10 player at his position, if not a solidified top 10 player. And can Grant win against some of these players like Joe Tooney? Can he win against a guy who I know is a all pro level player? Their weakest position is running back. I'm not too worried about our run defense, but we got to see how we do against their offensive line, right? I love their quarterback's physical ability, but he got to get out of some of these bad habits of holding on to the ball, throwing crazy passes. He needs to learn how to play on time, especially in the Ben Johnson's offense. Um, so Williams needs to really improve on some bad habits that he had back in college. Super athletic guy, and part of the issues that Patrick Mahomes had coming out, but he had a whole year, basically a year to sit to get iron some of the things out. So Williams' rookie season was derailed by poor play calling, true, inconsistent accuracy, and a general reluctance to throw on time. That's the biggest thing. His performance in 2025 will largely depend on how well he adapts to Ben Johnson's system and improve his timing. Williams ranked 32nd out of 41 qualifying quarterbacks in passing grade when throwing in rhythm. So this tells you right now, and that's the whole thing about NFL offenses. This throwing to a spot. I mean, if you are a good quarterback, you need to be able to throw on time, and that's throwing onto a spot because the receiver's not there yet. You need to be able to throw and not see your receiver there, and have the faith that my receiver's going to get there because I'm throwing on time. All right. And so that's something they knocked Tua Tagovailoa for and the Miami Dolphins for. But every team does this. I mean, I watched Josh Allen do it, and he's probably one of the few players that play out of time, off rhythm the most and be successful with it. Almost nobody can really do that. Yes, those highlight plays are great, but when you get to the playoffs and you play against good defenses and you can't play on time, you're not going to go very far. You're going to lose, and you're never going to get to a championship game. And I'm not saying this Josh Allen can't play on time. He's improved dramatically on that. But when you survive off of those type of plays, like that's like, hey, give it to Josh and do something. That's your game plan. Your game plan is not going to work most of the time. There's exceptions to the rule. And this is part of the reason why I think Lamar Jackson also struggles too in postseason play to get into a championship game. You got all the talent in the world, but when you can't play on time and be able to be efficiency, that creates issues, right? And that's why Joe Burrow, because sometimes Joe Burrow doesn't play on time either. He tries to move like he's one of those guys, and that's what creates issues. So, moving on. Offensive player Darrell Wright. So these offensive players that we were looking at that are like big contributors that we need to look out for. Darrell Wright, we already spoken about the offensive line. Defensive back Jalen Johnson. I don't think Tyreek Hill is going to really participate because he got hurt, dinged up a little bit. He doesn't like he's overly hurt. I hope if he can, he sit out. Take care of yourself. We need, even though he's a head case, but we need his physical ability to have a successful season. So Jalen Johnson, I want to see how Waddle perform against him because I need to see if Waddle can be a wide receiver one, and I think he can be. But remember, he was a draft pick behind Chase, and they're not on the same level. And I wanted Chase. I want to Chase bad. I would never have traded down. I want to Chase bad. I was like, he's going to be a superstar. And boy, he made me right. And so I wasn't mad with Waddle. I thought Waddle was good, and I'm glad we took him over Devontae Smith because I think he's better than Devontae Smith, a better talent. But if we could have got different players. I'm not going to put names out there because then I didn't even believe in that player at that time, so it's not fair. All right. Next, rookie, obviously the tight end, Loveland, the number one tight end from the draft. So let's see how we do with our linebackers. I think the strength for our team is our front seven. Linebackers are two, and I think they can cover. I think we do have slot corners, and Mika Fitzpatrick coming down in the slot playing on tight ends. I think tight end this year will be one of the few years in the history of the Miami Dolphins that we don't have an issue covering tight ends. And then I do like their running back in Swift, and so can he be enough behind this offensive line? We saw that Swift is a good running back when he was with the Eagles behind that offensive line. And so bottom line is O-line. O-line. So, and we'll see how our D-line and our pass rushers can do against that particular rush. All right. And that's my gist on the Bears. Right. So let's go to our final part, which I'm coming up on 30 minutes now, and well, 20 minutes, but so my last 10 minutes. I try not to make these things more than 30 minutes long. I like that they're long when I'm driving, but I don't want you guys having to listen to it. So we're gonna look at Warren Sharp's, this is gonna be kind of short because I don't want to give you too much of his stuff. Because remember, he is charging for this, so go buy it, man. It's $1 for now. So, and if you don't have a code, I don't got it. Go to Reason. Go to Reason's podcast or Dudley Do Wrong, or I think it's Cow Pits. One of not Cow Pits, Cow Crabs. All right. So let's look at it. As you guys know, the Dolphins weren't good last year, but they weren't bad. They weren't bad. It was one game away from the playoffs and one game away from having a winning season. So what happened? Let's take a look at it. Right. I'm going to read the overview and preview, not the whole thing, and that's all I'm going to give you. If you want to get into the statistics, the EPA, the win line, the betting line, trying to make that money, fantasy, all that stuff, I am not giving you any of that. It's some fun, good stuff. Strength of schedule, that's up here as well. Key players lost, gain. You guys kind of already know that stuff already, but I'm gonna just give you guys some of what he has. The title, so you know what you will get if you buy in it. So key players lost, key free agents traded, added, overview and preview for 2024-2025. The spending on each unit, positional spending, the win totals, average line, the games favored, games they're underdog in, the efficiency drives on offense and defense, EPA, yards per carry, all this kind of stuff, man. Like, it's really detailed, and that's just the first 2 pages. The strength of schedule and in detail in comparison on ease of defense and are we going to be able to win even though we might not be favored, but like, can we beat them because they're a weaker team? That kind of stuff. I'm not even gonna go into full detail. That's page 3 and stuff. So let's go ahead and just start with the overview and preview because that's what I'm gonna stay on. It says injuries played a significant role in the performance of 2024. It's been like that since Mike McDaniels got here. Those injuries hinged around the offensive line specifically, how the offensive line was able to open up holes in the run game. Sound like something I already said. Last season, center Robert Hunt and Connor Williams departed via free agency, making the offensive line a key area of concern heading into 2024. Both of those were top 10 players at their position, and we lost them. That concern proved justified. Already thin from offensive line departures, injuries struck. Austin Jackson played in only 8 games, week 1 through week 9. And I'm going to tell you, in the first 8 weeks, we weren't horrible in the run game. All right? We weren't horrible. Honestly, if Tua doesn't get hurt, we probably in a situation where we fighting for the AFC East. Like, that's crazy. Like, if you go back and look at those games, probably win some of them games. Tua don't get hurt. Seattle. What's the other one? Colts. What's the other game we lost that we should have? Can't remember the other one. Man, it's another one. It's about 3 of them games that we should have won. It's Jacksonville, not Jacksonville. Titans. If Tua played, and that's one game we kind of struggled with the run game as well. But I think if Tua's there, it's like a back and forth, barely moving the ball, and then finally the offense broke that defense. So, all right, Toronto Armstead missed 2 games. Though this isn't a shock, Armstead has missed multiple games in all but one of his 12 seasons in the NFL. Obviously, now we know he had a degenerative knee. Without Hunt, lost before the season. Williams lost before the season. Jackson lost midway through the season. The run game truly collapsed. The Miami Dolphins offense was broken because their engine wasn't functioning. It's like somebody put Kool-Aid for gasoline in that engine. Not going to work. After Jackson went to IR, replacements like Kendall Lamb and Jackson Cameron failed to fill the role effectively. Additionally, both Liam Eichenberg and Robert Jones struggled at guard. All right, that's the one page. Next page, we're almost done, and I can't give you any more. I'm not going to give you the efficiency per drive. I'm not going to tell you how they did in 3rd down and 3 and out and yards per carry. You're missing all this stuff. Buy his book, I'm telling you. Jones never provided consistent push, and Liam struggled to sustain blocks, limiting holes up the middle. Jones took every snap at left guard last season, and Eichenberg took 92%. So we had 2 below average players, not even below average, inefficient players being able to play. Give you an example. PFF ranked Jones 91st overall, and Liam Eichenberg 104th. There's only 32 teams, and they're two guards. Like that's really, really bad. That's like 64 guards that are starters. That is really bad when you're 91st and 104th. They're worse than backups, which probably is true. Week 1 through 9, early downs. Success rate. Oh, so sorry. So the first 8 weeks when we had Jackson and Ingle, right? Because they both got hurt in that same game, and also Armstead got hurt in that game, but he was already hurt. He was playing hurt, but he re-aggravated it. They were 11 yards per carry at 4.6. They were 27 in EPA, which is not great, but they were still getting yards. They even had the 8%. They was top 10 in success rate at 39. But moving on from that point, their success rate dropped from 8th to 28th, right? And the yards per carry dropped a full yard from 4.6 to 3.6, becoming 30th, dropping from 11th. And then the EPA was about the same. It still got worse. Went from the 27th rank to the 30th rank, from a negative 0.13 to a negative 0.18. And the performance was even worse when you factor in third downs. Week 1 through 9, all third downs. There was middle of the pack, 15 success rate, 17 at 4.4 yards per game. EPA was still bad at negative 0.14, but there was middle of the pack on third down. But when those guys went down, oh my goodness, they went from 15 success rate to 30th, and they dropped almost a full 10% from 41% to 32%. And the yards per carry went from 4.4 on third down to 3.5, almost a full yard again on just third down, ranking 31st. There was somebody actually worse than that. And then on EPA was dead last, 32nd out of the league, negative 0.22. This is how important this offensive line is. And you guys know this, but I need you guys to truly understand. If that O-line don't work, the offense won't work. The reason why the deep ball died, the run game died. The reason why Tua was a dump, what's that thing they call check down Charlie? Because he couldn't sit in that pocket, because they knew they had to throw the ball. This is why they threw so many checkdowns, because they try to supplement the run game with screens. Why he led the league in yak for the first time, even for the first time he was top 5 in like the first time in his career, is because the offensive line couldn't run the ball, so they tried to create a run game through the air. Like, this is why Mike McDaniels is not a bad coach to me, because he tried to find a way around maybe the worst run game, by EPA standards they were, in the league. And we already know the talent on that offensive line wasn't great. And the fact that he was even able to get them to where they were tells you something. Before he got there, they were 30th across the board. There was bottom 3 offensive line. They was historically bad in 2021, I think it was. Was it 2021? 2021, or was it 2020? One of those years. Historically bad under Flores. He comes here and makes them a middle-of-the-pack offensive line. I'm just telling you right now, Mike McDaniels is not a bad coach, especially from that standpoint, from creating a running system. His system is not broken. Now, let's go ahead and look at it. This is the last paragraph I'm reading, and then no more from his stuff. And I'm not showing you any of this on the screen. You got to listen, because I'm not going to show you something that he actually need to pay for. The Dolphins simply could not run the ball at all, which was a huge step down from where this offense had been in 2023, where the Dolphins were the #1 rushing attack on yards per carry and 4th based on success rate before injuries started to hurt that team. And you can see how they struggled when they had no run game at the end of the season, when it was 11-4, should have been really 11-3, and they struggled from that point on, right? Because the run game suffered, because you lost offensive line, and your defense struggled because you lost every pass rusher you could think of. For comparison, 2023, all downs, they were number 4 in success rate at 44%. They were number 10 in EPA at almost 0. Instead, it was negative 0.01. They almost broke even. It was top 10 unit. And in yards per carry, there was number 1. This is extremely disappointing because of how the Dolphins regressed. They went from the best run game, the best, and arguably added talent in the backfield last year, and went from the best to having those injuries on the offensive line and using backups to cover up for the top 10 unit guard and center that they lost in free agency. Literally went from number 1 yards per carry and top 10 EPA to the worst EPA. And next to last at yards per carry. They dropped almost a full 2 yards. That's like unheard of. I'm gonna stop right there. We can't read anymore, and we're gonna go ahead and finish right there. So, in summary, if the Dolphins are going to have a successful offensive season, the offensive line has to be able to run the ball. I don't even care. Like, I don't care about the run game, the pass blocking. Just not, don't get too hurt. But to the point where if you could just be 13 through 18, 13 through 20th in pass block and run block, just get me to middle of the pack. I think this offense will not only be top 10, but they will return back to form to be one of the best offenses in the NFL. Now, will they be number one like they were before? I don't think you're going to see that again. But that tells me if they can get this offensive line fixed, and they already replaced both those guards, and the guard that you had who was starting, who should have been a backup, is now a backup, you have a chance by looking at the depth chart we did earlier today, right? And the defense, if the pass rush can return to form, because we have 3 pass rushers who will be starters on just about every team if Chubb can return to form, if Phillips can return to form, if Chop can continue to progress. Sealer is a top 10 guy at his position. That D-line has multiple top 10 guys at their position. They can be really good. And Brooks, I always knew he was a good linebacker. Injuries hurt him, and he finally stayed healthy. Please stay healthy again this year, because that massive injury he had, he finally made it back. Like, this is a dude who I want to stay on a team, all right? And he's not complaining. He's not holding out because he had a good year. Give me some more money. Like, this is the type of dude that you want to be on your squad. And I'm hoping that he has another great year and they pay this guy like he's supposed to be paid and keep him here for the long haul. So, in summary, the Miami Dolphins have a chance to really prove a lot of doubters wrong. And I'm hoping that I'm got some of you doubters here looking at this and saying, man, maybe there's a chance. It all starts up in the trenches, offensive, defensive line. If that front seven can get after the quarterback, and if we can get that run game going and protect our quarterback, the Miami Dolphins will be in the playoffs in 2025. Again, like, comment, subscribe. Thank you for coming out and join the S.O.D Squad. Peace.